Hello, all you hardcore boxing fans out there. How you doing? It's Russ here from Porky's Corner. Today I'm joined by my good friend Rico from London, originally Finland. And for those of you who are new to the channel, Rico is the co-founder of Porky's Corner with me. But after 6 months, he left me in the lurch. He bolted after working with Porky for 6 months. He was like, "Oh my god, I can't believe
editing videos of you doing weights halfway through the video and all the other stuff. So you've come a long way, mate.
I was twice the size I am now then.
Maybe it was all those weights during the videos that you were doing that made all that difference.
Cringe-worthy, wasn't it, Rico? But
in a shed. You were in the shed doing the video.
In a shed. We started off in a shed and we'll probably end in a shed. So we've come a long way, haven't we, kid?
Exactly. How are you doing anyways?
I'm all right. How's life treating you, Rico? Everything all right?
Yeah, good. Nice little break over Easter. Not much you can do, but, you know,
you've been at home now for over a year, haven't you?
Like most people working in office, right? 1 year anniversary.
Piling that dough up, Rico, aren't you? With all them savings you're making on transport.
Don't have to pay train in London. I mean, that's a lifesaver, isn't it?
God. I bet you look booking big holidays a lot, aren't you, this summer, Rico?
You can't travel, can you? So what's the point? You can't even spend money at the moment.
Well, you're not spending no on that haircut. Look at that. That's a rate for
try and find a barber that will illegally cut my hair.
You'll be going for David A haircut soon, won't you? In braids at this rate.
Well, ain't nothing stopping us now, right?
Nothing stopping. Oh, Rico. That's just. In other news, water's wet. Right. Let's have a look at some material that we've got that I'd like to go through with you, Rico. Let's have a look. First things first. Carl Frampton. Should he have been allowed to fight in condition and state you were in?
I think it's a tricky one, right? That fight got pushed back. It got moved to Dubai. I mean, the reasons are pretty obvious why it got moved to Dubai, but we don't need to touch upon those reasons. It's one of those where fighters probably past this and everybody knows. Nobody has the heart to tell him because everybody's getting paid. He might have looked good in the gym, but who is he going to spar against, given that you can't bring in sparring partners? So it's probably the usual suspects, James Henderson and a few others they were sparring against. I know they came from Northern Ireland to Manchester. They were training at the Banter Gym. It was a step too far. I think you've said this many times. We have weight classes for a reason. Carl Frampton was a small featherweight. He stepped up to super featherweight against the fairly average, I would say, super featherweight fighter in Jamal Herring. It looked like it was easy work for Herring. At no point was he in any sort of meaningful trouble. Frampton just didn't have the reflexes to do anything with the punches that were coming back. And it was just waiting for the inevitable. I found it quite strange. He's always had a bit of a chin. I think Simon said it on your channel. But he's never really looked hurt. Whereas this time, you know, the most simple of shots, a lead left, you know, dropping him down heavily. None of the shots were so powerful and spiteful. It just looked like his chin was gone and there was nothing left. So to answer your question, should have he been able to fight? Sometimes you don't know until the fight is actually in the ring. But for all intents and purposes, if the guy says after the fight that they were going to retire, you know, regardless of the results, it felt like they were just hoping that they would win a world title. But maybe his heart wasn't in it. Maybe he wasn't in top condition. I think it was just chasing this elusive third world title, 3 weight classes, and it was sort of, you know, the writing was on the wall. He was past his best. We haven't seen him fight against quality opposition since Warrington, so we never knew the level that he was at until last weekend.
Yeah. I don't mean to have a go at the matchmaker who'll make the match, but when you're matching somebody of Carl Frampton's height and arm reach, the last person you want to put him in with is somebody of the opponent that he fought. I can understand it's a world title fight and a third world title, but in my opinion, I just thought it leaves a bad taste in my mouth, and I've been vocal about it last few days. That's what I do. I'm not really bothered about what anybody thinks about my opinion. People can like it or lump it, but there's a lot of people who are saying what I'm saying. But when I look on the social medias, what people send me, it's not what they're telling me. Do you know what I mean? That's why I feel a little bit quite proud of myself for being opinionated. And I look at these people and I think, well, that ain't what you told me yesterday. So shame on them, innit?
Yeah, I agree. Well, you look at the other guys in the division, you've got Oscar Valdez, who I know has sparred Carl Frampton in the past.
Yeah.
But I think he's probably a bit too much, given he just beat Birchall. Joseph Diaz, probably a bit too big. Tevin Farmer doesn't have a title. Shakur Stevenson. So that all just points to me that the guys that he will be facing are all just a bit too good and a bit too big. It's no knock on Frampton. He was one of my favorite fighters a few years ago. You know, that Santa Cruz 1 fight and 2 were excellent fights. He, proper warrior, always brought it, great with the fans, model professional, but it's a step too far. And the other thing that people aren't talking about is how much has he declined since he left Shane McGuigan?
Yeah, well, maybe he was on the decline when he got beat against Santa Cruz.
Maybe that fight took out of him. But again, after that Shane McGuigan fight, what have we seen from Jamie Moore and Nigel Travis improving him? I mean, he said he had the best time of his life with those guys as his coaches, which I'm sure they had a lot of laughs and banter in the banter gym. But again, I'm not sure whether they adapted his style where his reflexes are slow or managed to change that style in a way that would, bring his career sort of longevity. Even if you look at that Warrington fight, Josh Warrington's never been a puncher. He's a good high volume fighter, but the tactics again in that fight just didn't suit Carl Frampton. So I think questions need to be asked about what these trainers were doing with Carl Frampton, and could have, if Shane McGuigan was in the corner, could have that brought more longevity to his career, or more tactics, tactics that would have actually won some of these fights.
Do you feel that all this about he's had a great camp and all this, and then they said in the first round they noticed his timing were out? I've never heard that before in my life. Somebody's timing being out in the first round. First round's usually a feel around round. They don't usually let the shots go. So how would you know somebody's timing's out in the first round, or did they know prior to it? Didn't they take him on pads? I don't know. That to me shows inexperience from his corner. What do you think?
I don't know. I mean, look, sometimes people just say things to justify. I'm sure in camp he looked great, and sparring was good. Again, he was out of the ring for 8-9 months. I mean, he fought against Dennis Traynor at York Hall late last year, but he's fought 2 times before this in 3 years, so or 2.5 years. So he's not been particularly active. So I would say that it's more just the case that when he stepped up levels, he just couldn't figure out the problems, and rather than his timing being off, I think it's more a case that his reflexes weren't what they were.
Looked a bit fleshy as well, I felt.
Yeah, somebody else said that to me, but I think again it's more a case that he's just stepped up and put on weight. It wasn't a case that he's meant to be fighting in that way.
Yeah.
If old Porky stepped up to heavyweight, I'm sure you'd be fleshy as a cruiserweight these days.
Actually quite trim at the moment. 30.
Yeah, exactly, you'd be fleshy as a heavyweight, so you're probably more a career cruiserweight.
Still got some. When I had my gastric ban in 2013, she says to me, woman, she said, I think you should buy some clothes, Russell. Well, I don't think I'm going out, sweetheart. She says to me, well, I've actually saved her, that red V-neck I've got, the picture of me and Frotch when in ward camp, when I was about this wide.
Yeah.
Frotch is there next to me with that beak nose that he used to have. And his yellow and grey Harrington on. So she says, I think you should buy some clothes. I says, oh yeah. So I bought some 32 waist jeans, which were a fortune. but they're not like straight now. They're a bit like that much flary. Then they probably need taking in or something. And I keep looking at them and thinking 4 more inch. They'll fit me, but they're a bit flary. So I'll be hovering about like an hovercraft. But she said it'll spur you on. I said, don't you worry about being spurred on, love. The 7 bags you've took off me will spur me on to lose the weight. Don't you worry about that, love. Not these fees that you keep adding on and hidden in extras. You know what I mean?
Like
500 quid. It's 500 to have your band altered. Unbelievable, mate. Should have read small print, Porky. What do you say?
Like when people buy wedding dresses that are just the size smaller to spur you on, but that can be trouble on wedding day, right?
Well, I'm never going to have that problem, but okay, then let me just ask you some more questions. We've spoke about Carl Frampton, and I wish him all the best. He always comes across as a nice, pretty genuine kid, doesn't he?
Yeah, look, everybody that's interacted with him, probably apart from the McGuigans, have good things to say about him. He obviously was personable to the fans, and after that Santa Cruz fight, there's the photos of him meeting all the fans at the pub, and he had great support, and his style was exciting, and that Quig fight at the time was one of the biggest fights that could have been made in Britain. That was the equivalent to Amir Kell Brook. So it's one of those fights that goes down as fights that got made, that were big fights, and yeah, he faced against most of the best guys he could have faced, and he always entertained, and he fought against the best in Britain, and that's always something that's good to see.
Yeah. Yeah, he always strikes me as a genuine kid, but I always sense looking at him that he tries to please everybody too much, and I can imagine him being a bit easily led by certain
Yeah, I think, yeah, that's probably where some of the McGuigan problems stem from, and he's probably one of those guys that lets other people handle his finances and other stuff, and sometimes you need a fighter that's a bit more strong-headed, that they say this is how we do things in camp, and this is how we manage the process, and this is how you manage your own career. And partly it's probably down not having good management earlier on in his career that really caused him some issues.
A bit like Cobra, he won't put any of that. He likes to do everything himself, Carl.
Well, that's it. I mean, I think you have to in boxing. I mean, look, I'm not a boxer, so I'm not going to tell boxers what they
He used to
should
say
or
it's a
shouldn't.
business, Russ, and you have to like. I know I always revert back to him because I know his career off by heart and spent a lot of time talking to him, but he always used to say it's a business. Why do I need to pay somebody to tell me when to eat, when to go to bed, to pick me up and take me somewhere where I can drive, I can get me set up, I know what to eat. I've been at Loughborough University, did courses on it and all this sports and whatever and nutrition and all that. So why would I need to go through all that, then just pay somebody? And I see where he's coming from. I know people can say he's frugal and all that, and they keep emailing me on a daily basis, going on about onion rings and stuff like that. But
I think for some athletes though, it's the mental edge. So even though it's not about somebody telling you what to eat, it's just that you're paying somebody to give you the feeling that you've done all you could.
yeah,
So it's sometimes about mentality. I don't think Froch needed that outside validation so that he felt that he's done everything he could, where some people want strength and conditioning men around, some people want nutritionists around, and the only job that they are there to do is to give fighters confidence that they've done everything they could in camp. Whether they add any value or not, that's up for debate.
Do you know Clinton, right? Clinton Woods and Froch, obviously, they fought at the highest level for years, didn't they?
Yeah.
I think Clinton fought Roy Jones for the world title, and then he ended it with Cloud, and that were a period of 7 years. Froch fought Pascal, and then he retired in 2015. So that was like nearly 7 years. So they fought at a very high level. They used to get up and do their road work in the morning. Nobody following them. Like Mick Whale will follow Josh in car because he's pretty hands-on, Mick. He'll follow Josh when he does his runs, but McCracken and Porky, who trained at Clinton, they never used to follow Clinton. Clinton just used to get up and do it. He said, look, you've got to get up and do it. If you can't get up and do it, Clinton used to say, look, it's over. If you can't get up and do your run, he says, you can forget about boxing. That's their mentality. You see what I'm coming?
But it's the saying, I think Floyd Mayweather used to say this, which is actually from the Bible, which is something like what's done in darkness will come to light, which means that you need to be training and perfecting your craft when nobody else is looking, because that's when it will show. Like you don't need to have these people around running, telling you when to run. That you just need to do it, and that will all show up on fight night. So it's all
Yeah,
about fine margins, isn't it?
and Carl had his routine, and Clinton did, and I think towards end of both the careers, Clinton says to me towards end, I'll be doing the same run, but I'd be like cutting a few corners, towards end, and that's when game's up in it. And I think Carl got like that in the first Groves fight, and the second one he stamped it out. It shook him out of it. Well, it will have done. I didn't. He took one in the first 6 rounds. But I think that if you can't get up in the morning and do your run, what's point? It's well, I don't know. I mean, don't forget when Clinton trained Liam Cameron. Liam, this is a famous story. This Clinton's rung him up, and you know how Clinton is. He's a bit straight John Bull, and he's straight, not wooden, but Clinton Woods wooden, but not wooden, but he's like, Liam, how come I've not been training? That's what he's like. Liam, I dropped a tin of beans on my toe, on my foot, it's hurt my toe. Clinton, what? So I don't know what happened. I'm not sure if Clinton went round there or something. Show me this tin of beans. I don't know what happened. My memory's not that too good. I'll ask him about it, but I've spoken to Liam about it. And Liam's got all excuses under the sun, hasn't he? A talented kid, ABA champion. But point I want to make is that, and Scott Quigg touched on this in an interview I've just watched him do. If you're an ex-champion and you've been fought at the highest level, obviously Quigg's been a world champion, fought in pay-per-view, so he's been there. You're going to train somebody. Same with Crawler. He's been a world champion, fought in pay-per-views. Clinton Woods. Frotch won't even attempt to train anybody. And Clinton's obviously had a go. If you see somebody who's not as dedicated as you were, you just think you're wasting your time, don't you? That's why you don't get world champions training fighters. It's always some guy who are not a champion, isn't it? Kind of thing. Does that?
Well, sometimes, right? I mean, training guys is all about whether you're a good teacher. I don't think you necessarily need to be a world champion to be, because some guys are like some fighters, right? They're really good. They're really good at taking instruction, and they're really good at executing. Think about someone like Roy Jones, who's training Chris Eubank Jr.
Yeah.
Like Roy Jones probably can't understand why people can't do the things he can, right? But some people are very good at explaining why they've done the things. So some boxers are naturally just very good at doing things, whereas others are very good at explaining why you do things. And that's sort of the disparity. Like Joe Gallagher, for example, he didn't fight at a high level, did he?
No, I don't think he did. No,
exactly. But it's like more a teacher. So what you're doing is you have to break down and explain to a kid why they need to throw the jab first. Why can't they just go with the right hand? You need to explain to a guy that's more talented than you. So in Joe's case, somebody like Callum Johnson or Paul Smith or these guys, like you need to explain to them why they need to move their foot in this position, even if you've never fought at the same level as they fought. Like that's an entirely different skill to being somebody that's been able to do it. And sometimes that's the problem why these top guys can't train, because they can't understand why things don't come naturally to other guys.
Speaking of Joe Gallagher, did you know in the last 30 years there hasn't been one trainer in the UK that's had as many champions as Joe G?
No, but that wouldn't surprise me, partly because a lot of trainers...
All the way through the levels, he's like more than double anybody else. So
a lot of people come out of the game because
right?
They don't have success, right? They don't have success, so they leave the game after 10, 15 years.
Yeah, he's been at it long enough, hasn't he, Joe? It was 28 years been training them. 28 years.
If you look at the trainers from 15, 20 years ago, like how many of them are still in the game?
Not many, is there?
Not many, right? A lot of them have retired. And the other thing in boxing is, like a lot of the older trainers that have retired because of age, like Jeremy Tibbs and others, they aren't teaching kids. So these kids that are training now, whether it's someone like Ben Davidson, just using him as an example, right? He spent a bit of time at the gym, and now he's teaching people. Like, he hasn't done his apprenticeship. Whereas a lot of good trainers in the US, if you look at them, they've all trained under Eddie Foch or somebody else, and Georgie Benton, and now they've become trainers like 20 years after doing the tutelage. And I think Terry spoke about this in one of his podcasts about why you don't have good trainers, is that nobody in this country is really teaching other trainers. When I speak to boxing trainers in this country, they all say the same thing, which is that there's not much sort of chatter among boxing coaches on what needs to be done. Like, you don't get coaches from the north coming to the south and working with the southern trainers and changing ideas, because everybody's in competition.
Yeah. All right then. Moving on then from the Adventures of Tintin. I like that one. That used to impress all the girls in science class at school. It's all them in science were Dougies like me. So they were pretty easily impressed. Khan against Brook. Rico, why is Rob Tebbert putting stuff out like that on social media about Khan Brook? Has he lost a plot, or is he being controlled by other people, mainly Matchroom? What is it?
I think it's a case of being controlled. Like, I mean, it probably interests still a handful of people, but I'm not certainly one of them. So it's probably just, I wouldn't say clickbait, but it's this thing in boxing where people just want to get news out there. Like, let's just get stuff out there, because that's going to distract from the real problem, which is that there's no big fights.
Oh, what? Well, this
do you know in any other sport? Think about football, right? We don't fantasize about games because there's enough big games that are happening all the time. So yesterday we had Liverpool against Real Madrid, Man City against Borussia Dortmund. We don't go, what if Man City played against Juventus, as an example, because Juventus got knocked out in the tournament already. It's like, we know the best will end up facing the best in football. Whereas in boxing, it's more a case like everything's about what if this fight happened, what if that fight happened. In the UFC, there probably isn't so much of the same thing, because they can just make the fights that people want. Whereas in boxing, we focus on fights that were relevant 6-7 years ago. How long ago was that ringside with Khan and Brook?
2012.
Exactly.
But they were spoke about in 2010 and calling each other out all the way through 2011. And so basically it's a decade old, isn't it now? And for them to dig it up now, I mean, I'm hearing a little whisper that Amir Khan's over 11 million into this big, massive thing that he's built that's like shopping mall, weddings and all sorts of nuts to carry on. And he needs another 3-4 mil to finish it. I mean, what are we, a piggy bank for him? I mean, I like him and that, but come on. Him and Kell Brook, no.
We're piggy bank to all boxers. As long as people keep on buying pay-per-views, we become piggy banks, right?
I like Kell Brook as well, I think Kell Brook could have been our Terry Norris. Really good.
He's one of my favourite fighters of the last 10 years.
I just feel that once he fought Golovkin, it was Skid Row after that for him.
Yeah, agreed.
And nobody's put their hands up and said, you know what? We shouldn't have put him in that fight. I heard that from Dominic Ingle, John Ingle, Terry Thompson, Kell's stepdad, Kell Brook. Well, Kell shouldn't really have to answer that. Although maybe a little bit of blame lies with him.
Yeah, but fighters trust their teams, right? And his team is Terry and his dad at that point. So, law fighters should ask the question, do their teams have their best interest at heart?
Well, this is how I look at it. I remember his dad going on about this barrister mate of his that he got on board to get him away from Warren and all this. Well, maybe that might have been a problem, because when they were with Warren, they were knocking fights back left, right, and centre. You remember when they knocked that Mike Jones fight back
and the Bradley fight,
and the Pacquiao fight? You kept knocking fight back after fight. There was another one as well, a big hitter fight. I forgot his name, but he fought somebody else, but he was a massive puncher. And to cut a long story short, he'd knocked that many fights back, where do they go? And then they go Eddie Hearn and he's going to deliver this, going to deliver that. They give him an hard fight against Porter. They squeaked by. I thought he got beat up, but he squeaked by. And then they just wanted to milk the belt. They weren't bothered about fighting.
Well, the stabbing happened, right? That killed the momentum.
Well, maybe.
You know, that obviously killed the momentum because after that he fought against Kevin Bizier and then against Jojo Dan, right? Then he fought against Frankie Gavin, and then after the Frankie Gavin fight, he fought against Golovkin. So that just killed the momentum because after that fight, he could have just went with Al Heyman and PBC and fought against all these guys, and he'd still probably be in the mix, right?
Yeah, of course he would. He's not in mix now, though, is he?
No, but that's the thing. When you fight against those guys, those three guys, and then you're not building your profile in the US, and then you get bashed up by Golovkin, you're no good to anyone. And then you fight against Errol Spence for your mandatory, and then get bashed up again. So you're coming off 2 losses.
What about going up and down in weights like that, like Willie Hutchinson? I mean, who's advising these people? Is it Flex Wheeler?
Probably is.
I mean, Flex, why don't you come and see me, Flex? Eh? Why don't you come and see me? Come, let's have you on this channel. Come and see me at my office in Rotherham, Flex. I'm not far from you. Well, let's have you on here on Zoom so you can stay at arm's length away from me, because I know you've got the heart of a fucking breadcrumb. People like that, Dominic Ingle, yeah, I've got a fucking problem with you. 3 dope tests. And you walk swanning about like you're doing interview after interview. And everybody in boxing industry knows that you cheat. Fighters failing dope tests, Rico. And everybody in boxing knows what's going on, but not turn a blind eye, don't they? And think it's good. And when you question anything about the great Dominic Ingle, what does he do? He gets all smarmy, doesn't he, in interview and goes a bit funny on you, doesn't he? Look, this is how I look at it, right? And I've mentioned this before. If Jose Mourinho, Sam Allardyce, any of them, Jurgen Klopp, any of these top managers, if they have footballers failing dope tests on their watch, they're out of a job, Rico. They're out of a job. Do you know what I mean? And
in boxing, we don't want to take drugs seriously, do we? Because it impacts too many fighters. You look at the heavyweight division, how many of these guys have popped from dope tests? Like,
I could say a few stories on here, but I'm not going to do because I'm going to wait. I'm going to wait until there's a 4th one. And I've got it here somewhere. I'm going to wait while there's a 4th test, because there will be. Touch wood they're in, but if he fails a 4th test on his watch, I'm going to put a video out and it's going to go viral. Now, it's going to go viral and people are going to have to sit and watch it and they're going to go, oh my God, is that what's going on? Because somebody's going to get hurt, mate. Somebody's going to get hurt. And it's all right, these people who've never had a fight in their life, being in charge of these kids and bringing them on. Would you take your kid up to that gym up there and let him train your kids? Do you think I'm going to take my Reggie up there? Obviously, he's not going to be a fighter anyway, probably going to be a scientist. But if he wanted to be a fighter, do you think I'd take him up there? No, I'll go down there to Mick Wales or I'll go to Chris Smedley's. I won't take him up there. Let him near my kid. I think I'll take him to Richard Towers' gym. I won't take him there.
Yeah.
You wouldn't do it, would you? But why aren't the Board of Control doing something about this? There's only me who goes on about this. I have a problem with it, man. Well, I know why Billy Joe left him. And I know other things as well about that up there. That place up there, let me tell you. It will come out about that place. It will come out about that place one day. It will come out, and all them are all going to go, Porky, you're a hater. Well, let me tell you this. Wait while you're on other end of it up there. Then you'll want to be Team Porky. That's how I look at it. Winds me up all like that because we want transparency in the sport and want it to be fair. We want brain scans. We want pensions for fighters. We want proper matchmaking done.
Well, you're not getting that with these clowns in charge, to be honest.
Oh, yeah, no, because somebody said something to me on one live chat earlier. I forget what it were now. Who are you to criticise Robert Smith? What's your credentials? He's an ex-fighter. Well, I ain't had a fighter, but I probably had more battles in my life than Robert Smith's ever had. But I'm also not like Robert Smith, who's just had over £900,000 last year put through tax-free as expenses. So that 5 or 6 of them had a good jolly up on that, hadn't they? Around the world. That's not bad, is it?
No.
Hey? We had a good
I think
do
they should
out
be
that,
just
hadn't they? Good fucking do.
Yeah, I think the board's just a shambles. I mean, everybody knows that. Look at the judging. Nobody's done anything about judging. They are the most dismissive towards the fans out of any sporting organisation I've ever come across.
Shithousers.
You know, when fans start criticising judging, they just say, "Oh, you know, it's just pissed off people. They don't know anything about scoring." I think Simon brought the point up on your channel, right? That there's different. They said on the podcast that there's different criteria. How can there be different criteria of scoring a fight?
Well, what about Steve Gray's criteria? He's got an imaginary glass of water that he pours into another glass.
Yeah, but think about the criteria, right? If the criteria, and Simon made this point as well, if the criteria was not good, then sometimes the away fighter will get the decision, but it's always the home fighter. So how does that work?
Yeah.
It's not like it's ineptitude across the board, because sometimes the away fighter always gets the decision. You know, sometimes the away fighter gets it as well. Even when they get schooled, it's always the home fighter that gets it.
Yeah.
I mean, we're not stupid, are we? I mean, the way how we've been spoken to about scoring and everything else is like we complete idiots, and we're not. We all save, we all invest money in the sport. Whether they like it or not, we pay their salaries by going to shows, by buying pay-per-views. So I think all fans deserve a lot more respect than they get given by people in control of boxing, and many of the boxers on Twitter saying that fans shouldn't have an opinion.
Here, I'm going to give you a little exclusive here for the channel, right? I'm not sure if I mentioned this before. Have you got your box rack there, Rico?
I'll open it up.
Good man. That's what I like about you, Rico, Mr. Efficient.
Yeah, let's go.
Right, put Terry O'Connor box rack into it.
$20 and $20.
Pardon?
Yeah, 20 and 20 and 3.
Right, so Terry O'Connor, right, he's the referee, isn't he? Yeah.
Yeah.
He needs to go to Specsavers. Go down his opponents. Is there an opponent on there called Stan McDermott?
Let me find.
Who knocked him out in 5th round?
Stan McDermott. Yeah, it was 1-0-1.
Is it March the
3rd? It's the 6th of December, 1977.
God, I got that wrong then. 6th of December, 1977, Terry O'Connor got knocked out by John McDermott's dad, yeah?
Yeah.
Right, go on to John McDermott now.
Oh, is this that he judged the Tyson Fury fight?
Yeah, go on. You just spoilt me exclusive, Rico. And when did John McDermott fight Tyson Fury? 09 or 10? 10, wasn't it?
Yeah, well, 9 and 10.
Right, the first one were 9. So 32 years later, John McDermott fights Tyson Fury. And guess who's a judge on the night? Terry O'Connor. Like you do, he's judging a fight, whereas the fighter in this fight, dad iced him in his career, early in his career, knocked him sparko, smelling salt job. And he's the only one that went for him. He was the deciding judge out of the 3 who went for McDermott. Went for Tyson, didn't he? But said afterwards to people, right, he thought that Tyson Fury lost. So why did he? So he thought that Tyson Fury lost. So why did he give it to Tyson? Hey, and who let him be a judge in that fight? Because Robert Smith, right, was he fighting in 1977? He were, mate, because I've already checked. So Robert Smith was a boxer at the time, and he would have known this, and he's the Boxing Board of Control head man. So how come Terence O'Connor, a.k.a. Fat Terry, a.k.a. a buffoon, how is he in charge of a fight like that? How can that be? That is like George Groves being a judge with Rocco Frotch fighting somebody. Are you with me?
Mm-hmm.
Rocco Frotch winning and him giving it to the other guy. That would not be allowed. The bit would be hell on. So how has that been allowed to slip through the net? How? How can that be?
Kevin Mitchell in 2009 writes for The Guardian, the verdict of the referee Terry O'Connor after Friday's English heavyweight title fight was one of the worst ever witnessed.
Yeah, and I like Kevin.
And the headline is John McDermott's defeat to Tyson Fury was a travesty of historic proportions.
Yeah, he won by 4 clear rounds. It wasn't even close.
Yeah.
Tyson dusted him at rematch, fair enough, but it wasn't even close, mate, the John McDermott fight. It wasn't even close, mate. It was that bad. Now,
so the British Boxing Board of Control were discussing the controversy today, and they will announce their findings tomorrow, which probably, if they are in any way moved by injustice, they will ban O'Connor for at least 6 months and order a rematch. I honestly cannot remember a worse decision in the sport, and that's saying something. People go on about how Joe Bogner was gifted a win over Henry Cooper in his farewell fight in 1971.
That was Harry Gibb, wasn't it, that one?
Yeah. Fury McDermott was an entirely different scale of wrongdoing. Terry O'Connor.
Wrongdoing. Frank Maloney had an heart attack at side at ring. It was that bad.
O'Connor's scoring of 98-92 was not just wrong. It felt like out of kilter was all good judges without exception.
He had it by 6 rounds. What did other judges have? Who other judges, Rico?
Well, I think it's a case because he was the referee. He just, scored.
Oh, yeah. English title, was it?
Yeah.
Yeah, 10 rounder, yeah. Yeah, it is bad, but everybody...
Here we are. Here we are. Frank Maloney, McDermott's promoter, suggested O'Connor looked at his fighter's corner and had flashbacks to 1977, the night John's father, Stanley, knocked 7 belts out of O'Connor at Royal Albert Hall.
So what were the punishment for O'Connor? He got nothing, mate. He got nothing. These people are not held accountable. And it's happening all the time, and kids are getting cheated. Josh Wales been cheated out in about 6 fights, mate. And there's other people that have been cheated out of scoring. And Robert Smith's the captain of the ship. And these people are not held accountable. Why is that? Why is that?
Has a judge ever been suspended by the British Boxing Board of Control over the last 2 years? I mean, if anybody can write in comments and let us know that answer. Has a judge ever been suspended, or has a judge been suspended by the British Boxing Board of Control, let's say in the last 2 years?
Yeah, porkycorner@mail.com.
Or punished, or in any way sanctioned where they're not allowed to judge or officially reprimanded. I'm not talking about where judges just don't appear on certain promoters' fights or you don't see them around. I'm talking about official reprimands where the British Boxing Board of Control suspend the judge and make an official statement.
2 seconds, let me just shut this down.
I'm just going to check the press releases and see if there's anything here. I mean, the notices don't seem to... nothing we can see. Oh, doesn't look like there's any press release. Oh, they have a press release on Mr. O'Connor. Oh, it's just about this mobile phone thing.
So no, he never got punished. I know. Well, go to boxing.
The scoring was subjective. Isn't everything subjective?
Boxing is subjective, Rico, isn't it?
Exactly.
You know what I mean? So
yeah, it's I mean, look, it's only notice of people dying and Dillian White's UCAD stuff, and yeah, there hasn't been anything that they put on press releases.
Not good, is it?
No.
All right, then. Well, we'll leave poor Terry O'Connor alone. But Terry O'Connor, don't ever come and sit behind me at a show ever again, because you will get...
Yeah, but come see Porky. Rotherham. Porky's office in Rotherham. Come see Porky.
Come see me. But don't ever sit next to me, Terry, at a show like you did with me and my mate Frank from Bury. I've got a picture up there, sat behind me. I went, what you effing doing sitting behind me? You effing blind, effing, bleep, 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 bleep. Never budged. I said, you should be ashamed of yourself what you did to Huey Fury, you. Me and Frank were like that. Because you know what I'm like when I'm bouncing about.
Yeah.
Bounce about, don't I?
You never stole. That's the thing. You never stole.
And here, you, what you doing here? You have you got any press credentials? What about you? Who are you? Oh, we're you can. Oh, you can F off as well. Dennis is like, oh, what have you done now? You upset so? So? Who do they think they are then? Drug testing people. Don't they know your fighters are clean? They're trying to drug test Liam Cameron and saying they're making out his hand somewhere. But it's all good fun, isn't it? All right, then let's move on from the adventures of the buffoon. Fury Joshua. I know, Rico. I'm losing fucking will to live, mate. With all the press releases and.
Look, we don't talk about. I don't want to talk about until there's an official announcement with a date and venue. Didn't Teddy tell us a few weeks ago that we had 2 weeks and they were going to announce the venue and there's lots of bidders and interest? But
should we not give it airtime then, Rico?
Nah, what's the point? You know.
All right then. Callum Johnson and Callum Johnson's got a fight. Marcus Morrison's got Owen Eubank. Natasha Jonas, the hottest chick in boxing, against Katie Taylor. She's not the hottest chick. But I don't think she is now. But will Natasha Jonas and Marcus Morrison get a fair crack of the whip fight week with the PR? Yes or no?
I mean, look, Callum Johnson's with Frank. Frank's PR's pretty shoddy, so he'll get what he gets, right?
Oh, Callum, yeah, but I'm on about the Callum probably will, yeah, but I'm on about.
You know what, Marcus Morrison, he'll get the standard 1 or 2 interviews before the fight, as you'd expect. I'm sure Natasha Jonas will get quite a few interviews because she's personable. Also, I think in female boxing, that's a good and interesting fight. So I think she'll get, but I mean, Katie Taylor's the A side, so she'll get the column inches, but at least in the YouTube boxing world, Natasha Jonas will get, some stuff, but I guess it's down to Matchroom to do something with her, but we know which horse Matchroom are backing in that fight, so.
What did you think to Joe Gallagher's last appearance in the bubble? He brought his thing to test security and all that, didn't he? And because they were trying to test him or something, weren't they? And he was testing them, wasn't he? Do you think it was a bit of reverse psychology or something like that?
Yeah, I think it was, because didn't they do the thing what in the Terry Harper fight as well? What was it? They turned, I can't remember what it was, but obviously Steffi Bull was thrown off. He was there dressed as a less said about him the better, but yeah. So we had so I'm sure Joe will be up to some shenanigans, and it's a bit different at the moment with the bubble, right? Because you're seeing your opponent at breakfast, you're seeing them all the time, you're hanging out with them. But I don't think there's animosity between Natasha Jonas and Katie Taylor. So I think the camps will be pretty amicable. It's more just to make sure that the judges score that fight fairly. That's probably the biggest thing for Joe to try and achieve, that the fight is scored fairly, and Natasha gets a fair crack of the whip.
Well, I hope she does, because I think she's got the style to beat her. She's a southpaw, isn't she?
Yeah, I mean, look, I don't think Katie Taylor's been as impressive over the last few fights as before. She lost the first Delphine Bassoon fight, but that just gives me worry that if it's a close fight, she'll win it again.
Really?
I mean, Natasha Jonas has been robbed from a world title already once.
Oh, so. She royally shafted, wasn't she?
Yeah.
I think it's a great story, Natasha Jonas one, she's got a baby and all that, and she takes a little girl, I think she's about 2 or 3 years old. She takes a little girl to the gym. There's facilities for her to be in and watch her mum train and that, and all be safe, and that's a fantastic gym. She does the sessions there, and I think that's brilliant. You know, a young mum doing that, and
Yeah, it's
I just
credit
hope
to
that
Joe for putting up those facilities, to be honest, because I think a lot of male coaches in particular won't think about things like that, but it just shows that, he invests in her career and his fighters' careers. And I just hope she wins because she deserves it. And, I hope that she makes good money out of the sport. And I'm sure she'll have a career after the sport anyways, but I think it will be a good sort of story and crescendo for her career to win this fight.
I think Joe Gallagher's done fantastic for me, to be honest, and he is proper hands-on. I think he tries to do too much myself. I don't see any other trainers doing what he does. There might be some, I don't know, but I think when you're up early in the morning, 6 in the morning, and then you're at it till 1 in the morning and turning your phone off, doing what he does on 5 hours, the man's a machine, mate.
Yeah, it's passion as well, right? He
Oh,
loves the sport, so you couldn't do that unless you actually loved what you were doing. So
no, you can't. We spoke
we
about
we Callum Smith quickly. He's obviously facing this
Callum Johnson.
guy Markic, or what's it called, this Bosnian guy. I think the Bosnian guy is quite highly ranked in the WBO, if I'm not correct, or if I'm correct. So it sets him up for potentially a final eliminator because he needs to work his way up the rankings due to inactivity. But I think it sets up things quite nicely because you could have Callum Johnson against Lyndon Arthur, who's I think he's ranked number 3 with that governing body. You could have that as a final eliminator for a world title, and the vacant titles being fought between Joe Smith Jr. and is it Vlasov or whoever he's facing.
Yeah.
So I think that could be, a good route, and it's nice to see Callum Smith. It's nice to see Callum Smith getting
Callum Johnson.
Sorry, Callum Johnson. Callum Johnson, yeah.
Do you think that Marcus Morrison's got a chance to beat Eubank? And if so, out of 10, what would you say?
1, I don't think he has much of a chance. I just think...
No?
I think Eubank's, he's a relentless guy. He's beaten Yildirim, knocked him out comprehensively. He just beat Kobarov in his last fight, although Kobarov got injured in that fight. So I think he's operated at a higher level. And Marcus Morrison lost his iron boots, didn't he?
Yeah, that were ages ago, wasn't it? He's on a good run since then, isn't he?
Yeah, he is. But I think levels, I just think it's... The only thing I could say is if Eubank Jr. living with Dan Bilzerian, the famous playboy, if he's taken his eye off the ball. I know he's been hanging out with him in Vegas, so it might be that.
Who's he been hanging with?
Dan Bilzerian. He's like this famous Instagram guy that has like a harem of women and plays poker and stuff. A lot of the people know who Dan Bilzerian is, but Eubank Jr. has been hanging out with him in Vegas and playing poker a lot, so it might be that he's taken his eye off the ball. And I also wonder who's going to be in his corner on the night, because obviously I'm not sure if he's still with Roy Jones, judging by the fact that he's in Vegas rather than Penny Colosa, where Roy Jones is based and trains and has his gym. I wouldn't be surprised if there was just some random guy in the corner on the night.
I don't think Roy Jones would put up with attitude of him. It strikes me as a bit sullen, that Eubank.
Yeah, but he's one of these guys that he would have made so much money from boxing, more than Billy Joe Saunders and a lot of other guys. So I think he's made his money due to his profile rather than actually his boxing ability. And after boxing, he can do other things. So he's created his profile through boxing.
Yeah, he's not daft, is he?
No, and it's a lesson to everyone. I mean, he went to Brighton College, so he's probably not. But
his father were a shithouse, though. Let's have it right. He had 19 world title wins. Only 4 of them were world champions. What other fucking 15?
Yeah, he didn't fight against the best opposition, but
but
I would say that he's a hell of a fighter, though.
He wasn't an hell of a fighter when Carl Thompson put hands on him.
That was when he was finished, though. Like, I mean, look, the Ben fight and others, like, he didn't fight against the American guys, but he fought the best in Britain, and he did well.
I thought Watson beat him at first fight and won every round in second till he got dropped in 11th.
Yeah, but that's the thing. If you get dropped, you get
Yeah,
dropped, right?
yeah, but I was never a big fan of Eubanks. Simply the best. I was never a big fan of him, and like I said, when Carl Thompson put hands on him, as our friend Terry says, Carl Thompson put hands on him. I was like, "Go on, Carl, the cat."
Yeah, but I think Eubanks' idea was that people don't like him because if people don't like him, they watch him to lose and they pay for that. It's I think it was him who said that you'd rather be hated than loved, and but the worst is that you're caught in the middle where people don't have an opinion about you.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. Uh, Moving on then. Calla Sauerland, Barry Hearn. Is there a bit of corned beef there, or is it a bit of laughing luncheon meat, or
I mean, look,
smelly spam? What is?
Barry's, you wouldn't want to give your granddad social media, would you? Or in your case, your dad, right? People of that generation. But I think if anything, that showed to me that they worried about the threat, right? If Frank Warren makes an announcement, they're not worried because that's not competition. But this Wasserman and Sauerland deal is probably potentially quite big competition for Scott for Matchroom, not Sky, Matchroom in the UK. So Wasserman obviously are big global sports agency that represents many NFL, NBA, golfers and others. They've got a lot of money behind them. They bought out Sauerland and they don't have many boxers Sauerland on their books, but this means with the Wasserman money, they can sign other guys in addition to Chris Eubank Jr. And, they now in competition, right? If Wasserman signs a guy, an Olympian or somebody else, they will get them on a platform where they can fight on Wasserman shows rather than going to Matchroom. So Wasserman did initially sign Conor Benn, but I'm not sure who manages Conor Benn these days. But yeah, I mean, there's rumors going around that Wasserman will do a deal with a over the top platform, so the likes of YouTube or Netflix or Amazon. But yeah, there's strong rumors going around that they have a deal. But I'll
Well,
let
they
them
need a
announce
deal,
it.
aren't they?
Well, it's just a new broadcaster coming into boxing.
I think it's good, me, but obviously the it looks like it's put Barry's nose out of joint, doesn't it?
Well, Matchroom are in a precocious position because obviously the Sky deal's coming up. Uh, it looks like that deal won't be renewed if you're reading tea leaves. They will probably end up going with the Zone, which will be interesting because that will mean the end of pay per view in theory in the UK. It might mean a Sky out of boxing, or it might mean that Sky buy stuff on a case by case basis. So that could be that Sky start showing MTK, Wasserman, and other shows, or it could just mean that Sky show the odd pay per view fight from the US. Or, but
Does
I
it
do.
leave? Does it leave Edward vulnerable now if he's just with the zone? If that doesn't last, because Sky has been their bread and butter for 30 years, hasn't it?
Uh, I think not so much Eddie, but I don't know whether that puts a strain between Matchroom, the overall sports, and Sky. So obviously, the natural thing. So the Zone, when they came to the UK, they don't own any sporting rights. They've just shown a few US fights. That's not an interesting proposition for a broadcast. And the way that you bring on subscribers is that you sign other sports. So what I could see happening is that darts and snooker, for example, go on the Zone. You get Sky Boxing or Matchroom Boxing on the Zone. The overall proposition. So that will be the US and the UK stuff. And then paying your 6, 7, 8 quid a month actually doesn't sound that bad. Um, Whereas with Sky, if the only sport I'm going to get is football and F1, why will I be paying 40, 50 quid a month for that? But what's going to be interesting with the whole thing is how it changes the view on pay per view, because we've often been told that certain fights can't be made because of pay per view. On a subscription model, you can't make the arguments, and also all the banging of the drum over these years from Eddie about pay per view being the only way to make big fights, that goes out the window. So there will be no more pay-per-views in the UK because Frank won't be doing pay-per-views. So what's going to happen? Like Joshua will be fighting on a subscription channel.
Do you think that's the way forward, Rico, for boxing?
If the money's there, right? It's an expensive endeavor to have a subscription channel in the sense that you need to get a certain amount of subscribers for it to make sense. So what's the Sky budget for a boxing show? 20 grand?
No, they give Eddie gets 150 grand a show, doesn't he, to put the full show on, doesn't he? But his job is to try and keep as much as that.
Pay-per-view or every show?
No, 20 dates, 3 million a year it were, wasn't it? So 20 dates, 3 million, that's 150 a date, isn't it?
Okay. So let's say he DAZN's £8 a month.
Oh, sorry. Oh, you want about what?
Yeah, so that means that DAZN have to have 375,000 subscribers for it to make sense.
Yeah.
So that's a big number, right? Sky has about 15, 16 million. So if you think about Box Nation, other stuff, like you can't find 400,000 boxing fans in this country that will be willing to pay for boxing on the subscription channel.
Box Nation didn't have 30,000 at their peak, did they?
Well, exactly. So DAZN, you might get, let's say 100,000, just for argument's sake. So you'll be losing money. But the advantage is they can sell the same content across all DAZN platforms. So that stuff can be sold to Italy, that stuff can be sold to the US, Japan, all these other countries, and all the boxing content they have in Japan and other countries, they can all air it here. So that's how they make it make sense. But for DAZN to be a success and run these big shows, they need to get quickly boxing subscribers on the platform. And I don't think there's enough boxing subscribers, so they have to have something else. So my guess is they would have said, okay, come to DAZN, and when your contract with the snooker and darts expires with Sky, bring that over as well, because that way you get bigger subscriber numbers.
So it looks like they're hitching their nest up with DAZN because they've had a taste of that decent money the last 2 years, haven't they?
Yeah, and it's also a different model, isn't it? It's easier for the promoter because you're not worried about pay-per-view numbers. You don't have to push. You've got probably a budget. They'll give them 5 million a year. They'll put on a certain amount of shows, and that includes pay-per-views, and they want to get people to subscribe on those. So with DAZN, which is a live sports streaming platform, the only way it's worthwhile is that there's sports to watch every weekend, and there's events to watch, and they need to have lots of events of different sports to attract a lot of subscribers. And that's obviously what Sky has done, but Sky has football, which is a big driver. They've got some rugby, they've got F1. So yeah, I think it makes sense for all parties. And I'm happier if I can pay £8-9 a month just to get, I might not even stream the boxing that way. I might even just pay because it's £8-9 if I can get all the pay-per-views.
Yeah, it sounds very attractive to me, but you know how stubborn I am with that show, don't you? I'm not going to do it there, Eco, don't you? But it'll kill me. I'll be like, God, it's tempting, isn't it? £9 for all that.
Yeah, I mean, look, if it's egg versus cheese, Eggington versus cheese once a month, I'm not interested. But if they can add other sports as well, if I can pay £9 and I can watch. I mean, I don't watch cricket, but for argument's sake, if they've got both cricket, they've got both rugby, they've got both boxing, they've got snooker, they've got darts.
Beach volleyball, Rico. Female beach volleyball.
The thing that we need is the netball, don't we?
You want,
mate? The netball, so Bean can talk about netball if he's hard.
Oh, I can't bear netball because they wheel out Gary Neville's sister, don't they, Tracy Neville?
Yeah, Tracy Neville.
You have to sit and listen to Tracy Neville, England manager or whatever it is. Wherever you go, there's a Neville involved, isn't there? One out, ball out, Red Nev.
Rest in peace, Neville.
Is that his dad?
Yeah, Neville.
Has he passed away, his dad?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Is that what he's called? Neville?
Yeah, he's called. He used to be an England cricketer. You should know.
Neville were an England cricketer?
Yeah.
Gary Neville's dad played for England at cricket?
Yeah, Gary and Phil were good cricketers in their own right.
Oh, right. I didn't know the dad were called Neville. God, I bet they got some stick at school with that.
Okay, maybe he was in England. He played in the Bolton Cricket League
Oh,
during the 80s.
Parkside League at Bolton. Do me a favour, man. That's not.
Remo Cricket Club.
Go on. Well, I didn't know that, but you learn something new every day. But listen, the dad should be proud of his sons anyway. They both played for England and Man United.
Yeah, both could have got. I think both of them were sort of very good cricketers at a young age. So,
But I liked Gary Neville's never say die attitude, but
yeah.
I'm a Liverpool fan, so there were times when Liverpool played Man United, whereas I just want to just do him in.
Well, I read his book, and you know what? He always accepted the fact
Red
that
Nevitt's called, isn't it?
It's called Red.
Red.
I read his book, and he always accepted that he was never the most talented player, and he just worked really hard. And he comes back to a point about boxing, which is, you know, sometimes the guys that aren't the most talented. So you look at Scott Quigg, for example, even Froch to an extent. Obviously, Froch won the World Amateur Championships, but you know, the guys that aren't the most fancied as amateurs and don't turn over as stars, but you know, they have this chip on their shoulder where they have to work hard, and that's why they put in the extra mile. And Clinton Woods and others, where sometimes these amateur stars that turn over with all the fanfare, you sort of think their natural talent will take them there.
I saw an article the other day, Gary Neville, where you might have read it in his book actually, where he said there were Eric Harrison, the youth,
you team
said, and Paul Scholes were there, and they were doing all sorts with ball. And he says, I looked at what Paul Scholes were doing, and he said, I thought, God, I better study harder at school because I'm not going to make it as a footballer. But Scholes were a different position, wasn't he? And then there's a lot of things with Gary Neville. He must have been insecure because when Michael Owen broke into England team, he'd been in England's squad, you know, about 3 or 4 years. He says, and Ball got pumped over one day in training. He says, and Owen were on it in a flash. You know, this is probably before he did his hamstring, and he were on it in a flash, and they were all ribbing him, and he buried it by goalkeeper. And he said he were questioning whether his legs had gone and all that, and he was only in his mid-20s. So I bet he had a torrid time, Gary Neville.
Yeah.
There's one part in it, in this article I read. It's 442 magazine, and they'd all gone out and that, and Gary Neville were there with his shandy. And Tony Adams and Paul Merson were like, what's that? And he's gone, half a shandy, and they've gone, you know, Merson and Adams.
Yeah, they were big drinkers.
And he said he were like, oh God, I didn't know whether to go get a pint. I don't know, but anyway.
But you know, Gary, right? He's a good pundit, which we don't see many of these boxing pundits, particularly.
I mean, Carragher are really good, aren't they?
Yeah, but you know, you can tell that they do their research. So remember with the Monday Night Football, they'd show the clips and they'd.
You've got production teams, Rico. They're not nailing it like I do in one take.
All right, Ross, calm down. So, you know, they were talking that Jamie Redknapp used to turn up and then he just used to do his chatting, right? He'd do no prep. But apparently Gary Neville, when Monday Night Football started, he'd be there, you know, from mid-morning, doing research, looking at the clips that they could use and what he would say and stuff. And that sort of transfers over from football. But how many boxing pundits do you see that?
No, the boxing pundits, right. Well, they do. They turn up, don't they?
Piss up in the bubble. Have a piss up in the bubble, right?
Barker does, but Darren Barker does, and Spencer Oliver, they like to get out their face. I think it's a bit more than a piss up with them boys, but good luck to them. I wish I could get some. But there's no good about. But no, I just think that boxing pundits should be a little bit more forthcoming with what the truth is. I don't want to hear people like Tony Bellew, who has took bum licking now to another level. I don't know if it's because he's worried that Sky might not want to know him in future. I don't know, or he feels he's going to be left on the shelf. But he took arse licking to another level, Tony Bellew. It's painful to watch, mate. Very, very painful to watch a grown man who, well, you could call him a world champion, but he never beat a champion in his career. But it's painful to see somebody like Tony Bellew, who's a strong personality, bum lick like he does. It's bum licking on another scale. It's not bum licking. It's superhuman bum licking. That's what it is, Rico, and it's painful to see it. Because, others, they don't. Could you imagine Carl Froch bum licking Eddie Hearn and Bean like?
Yeah, I mean, look, we've spoken about this many times, and there isn't much else to say. But my biggest problem is really that they're not telling us what we can't see. Like, boxing pundits don't give us any insight on what's happening in the fight. They're not breaking down the fight in much detail. They're telling us the most obvious things, and they're not adding any value. It's like you could get any of us there to do the punditry, and we'd add equal value. And the level of punditry in boxing is so low compared to any other sport. Like, imagine watching football and they saying this team has more of the possession. Oh, they passing the ball sideways. Oh, they're trying to hit long balls. Oh, they seem to be looking to counter attack. That is boxing punditry for you. Nobody's telling us like what's happening. What's the thing that while I'm watching it and I can't see with my sort of non-boxer eye, and none of them are doing that. They're just giving us the most simple things. But I think the thing is that they've done the Sky product is not aimed at boxing fans like us. It's aimed at the guy that turns over from football. So they're just dumbing everything down and making everything sound exciting so that people just stay and watch it.
Yeah, I used to think Macklin were a good pundit, but I think he's lost plot now.
He has. But you know what? He's just become he's got with the program, right? That's the thing.
He's had his finger pricked, hasn't he? He's with the cult of Bean.
Yeah, he's become a Bean Mason.
I mean, look at it like this, right, Rico? These people who are pundits at Sky, it's all coming to an end, and they all know, mate. They're all jostling for position. They know it's coming, mate. It's coming to an end, and you know what? I'm fucking glad, mate, because I want a clean sweep of it. I want boxing ripping up and starting again, mate. That's what I want to see. I want to see fresh people, fresh ideas, fresh punditry. I don't want to see Anna Woolhouse, all goggle eyes there, pushing the narratives that they're telling them to push. I want to see.
I mean, she knows nothing about boxing, so she's completely useless. I mean, look at her. I mean, we shouldn't compare females to females for the sake of it, but look at her compared to Natasha Jonas, right?
Oh my God.
And Natasha Jonas had so much value. She's got great insight. She actually knows about boxing and she talks about it with credibility.
Plus, she's hotter.
Yeah, it gives her opinion, right? Like, that's all we want. Like, I don't want there to be a female or a male presenter just for the sake of it. Like, I want the panel to be full of people that can actually give opinions and add value and challenge people, and there's none of that. Like, somebody like Duke McKenzie would be great at punditry because he was quite good at ITV. He runs a gym just down the corner, 3 minutes from my house. He's a multi-weight world champion. He gives good insights. Why not give him a job?
I like him, that Duke McKenzie.
Yeah, he's good. He
comes across really well on TV, but
yeah,
he doesn't seem to get
looking, does he?
He don't get a look in, does he? Now, because he's not part of the Bean Mason cult. He's going to tell it as it is. Now, people like him, and there's other people that have worked in past. I'm not going to say Nick Orlin, but there's other people that have worked. Is it Clark? Is it Andy Clark? He's not bad, is he?
Andy Clark, yeah, he's all right.
Paul Dempsey's pretty good. Them sort of people, they don't get a look in.
Glenn McCrory was good.
And McCrory were good till they went off at rails, but they want their people in so they can push their narrative, and that's what's wrong with the sport of boxing, Rico, and that's what sends me into mad frenzies where I want to do crazy shit, but I have to keep myself under control, otherwise I'll end up locked up again. But I just think it winds me up and I think that it needs a clear out. And what I've noticed lately. They've got this coming up, haven't they, with Sky and all this, and nobody is saying a word about it, are they? Nobody's coming out doing interviews. Bean seems to have he's jumped on board doing darts and other things at Sky. So he's trying to jockey for his own position there at the moment. They're all fighting and scrambling for their lives, and I'm loving it. I'm loving it, mate. I love it, mate, what's going on, mate. I love it. Because I want to see these lot suffer. Isn't that right, Johnny Nelson? I want to see you suffer driving around in your leased Range Rover telling everybody you paid cash for it, you weirdo.
Yeah.
Johnny Nelson drives a leased Range Rover off somebody who we know in Sheffield. Telling everybody he paid readies for it. Get a grip of yourself, Johnny. Stop telling massive whoppers.
You know, Adam Smith's written a book. Do you know about this?
Adam Smith's writing a book.
He's written a book, yeah.
He's going. Oh, is it called Beautiful Brutality?
Yeah.
I've read it, mate. I've read it.
Any good?
It's about 6-year-old, isn't it? 7-year-old.
Yeah. 7, 8 years old.
Yeah. I read that years ago, mate. I was trying to get into Bean's mind and see what makes him tick, and I did do, mate. I know what he is. He's a serious. Listen, mate. He's a serious guy. He makes Dennis Nielsen look like Mary Poppins.
On that note, do we have anything more to cover?
No, only that Bean annoys me. I'm going to deal with all this down here, Rico, without you tonight now. You missed out, kid. I'm on one tonight now. I've got a couple of cold ones in the fridge, Times like this, Rico, when I used to be doing shovel, I used to be in there and I think, do you know what? I just wish I were at home with just 4 bottles of Black Sheep or 4 bottles of nice ice cold beer.
Well, you do love your Black Sheep, Porky.
I am the Black Sheep. I am the original Black Sheep. You can only get it from Asda in Doncaster. I know. Can't get it from anywhere else. They only buy in 1 crate a day as well.
Well, there's probably not many other people that drink it apart from you.
When I walk in there, they go, "Oh, I had a delivery." I'm going. I just go. I turn around and they go, "Oh, we've got one here for you, Porky." I go, "You know."
Well, you know what? Since you're having that, make sure you don't fall asleep when you're chatting to Terry later.
Oh, yeah, I forgot about Terry. Could do with putting Terry on hold, but can't do that because he's the main man, isn't he? Let's have a look. What time is it now, Rico?
7:15.
7:15. Oh, I've got another hour and 15 minutes. So by the time I get on here with Terry, oh my God. What I'm going to do, Rico, right? I'm going to put this out tomorrow night. Is it Thursday tomorrow, yeah?
Yeah.
I'm going to put this out tomorrow night, and I'm going to put Terry's out tomorrow night at same time, so it fries their heads. What do you think?
Not a head-to-head. Come on. I always
do an head-to-head with Terry, Rico.
Oh, you can do it. Give it to the fans.
I'll tell you what I'll do then, Rico. We'll put yours out tomorrow at 6, and Terry's at 7:30 after yours. How's that?
Still doesn't make a difference, but go ahead.
Well, you put it. I'll not put them out at the same time, and that way your feelings won't get hurt if Terry beats you. In fact, you were both neck and neck.
If he beats me, he's not getting those trainers, mate. That's what.
Cost trainers.
He's not getting them. You can.
You got yours on?
No, but I've worn them a few times. They're nice. So cheers for those.
No,
thank you to the sponsors.
No, but Andrea, this is Rico. He's a bit too young for you though, and he's got a chick. All right then. Well, listen. You take care. Have a great evening.
You too, mate.
Did Man City win last night, Rico?
They did.
Yeah, Man City could end up winning a lot this year, couldn't they?
I know, it's not good, is it?
I'll slash up if they win. They won't be able to cope.
Well,
it's better than Man U though, isn't it? Winning it.
Well, I support Man U, so that's not.
You're a Man U fan, Rico?
I am. You always ask me the same question. Of course I am.
Fergie time. You know, well, I've got a problem with Fergie time, don't you?
When the team's so bad, you could give them all the time in the world. They're still not scoring.
All right then, mate. Okay.
Right. Enjoy your chat with Terry and tell him that if he beats me on this video, he's not getting his trainers.
I'll tell him, yeah.
All right. Take care, mate.
Yeah, mate. Cheers, mate. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Well, that was my good friend Rico. I ain't got many friends actually, but Rico's okay. He's a good kid. He's been here, stayed here. He's a good kid. I took him that motorway, scared him to death. He's a good kid. He's got a fantastic job in London. Really good job. And it's nice to meet different people, I think, innit? When you're a bit of a scallywag like me from Doncaster. But that's about it, really. I think I need to go get a shower, get my dressing gown on, polish them other 2 bottles off. Should have got more, shouldn't I? But don't want to end up a pisshead. So, big shout out to Mick Whale. Hope you're well, Mick. You haven't rung me for a week or so, Mick. Hope you're all right. Hope you and your Josh are doing well. Hope your Gwyn's all right. Hope he's still laying them bricks. So, okie dokie then. All right. Big shout out to Frank and Dave from Bury, me pals. Peace out.